What happens when your cheating husband thinks is winning, but you hold a secret worth millions? If you love stories of quiet revenge and unexpected twists, stay tuned. I never imagined I'd be writing here. I, 32F, married Daniel, 34M, when I was 25. We met in college. He was charming, ambitious, and always had big dreams. I fell for him hard. Fast forward 7 years, and I found myself sitting across from a lawyer with a divorce packet in my hands, served by Daniel himself. He didn't even have the decency to tell me in person. He laughed when he handed the documents over. Literally laughed, like it was some kind of joke, like he was finally getting the last word in a marriage that, by all appearances, had been perfectly fine, or so I thought. I had no idea my world was about to shatter. Daniel had been growing distant for months. I chalked it up to stress from his job. He worked in sales for a big tech firm, a high-stakes, pressure-cooker environment where everyone was trying to outperform everyone else. I ran a boutique marketing agency, small but solid. I started it 4 years ago after years of freelancing. It wasn't flashy, and I didn't talk about it much because Daniel never really seemed interested. Whenever I brought up a new client or campaign, he'd nod, maybe say nice, and go back to scrolling or watching ESPN. It didn't hurt at first, but then I started noticing he'd interrupt me mid-sentence just to talk about his work. Always his big wins, his meetings, his performance bonuses. He liked the spotlight. I didn't mind giving it to him, until I realized he'd never shared it with me. Here's the thing. From the beginning, Daniel wanted us to combine finances. We're a team, he said. I agreed. We opened a joint account. He took over most of the finances, paying bills, managing investments, etc. At first, I trusted him completely. He encouraged me to not stress about the money stuff and focus on my little business. Those words would ring in my head later. What he didn't know was that I never completely gave up control. While he managed our joint accounts, I kept my business finances separate as any small business owner should. I also started investing quietly through a friend who worked in fintech. It was nothing wild, just smart, consistent investing. In time, my agency grew. I landed a few high-profile clients, expanded into e-commerce strategy, and started hiring contractors. My income ballooned, but I never flaunted it. I lived modestly, even when I didn't need to. Daniel didn't notice or didn't care. Things truly unraveled when I found the receipt. It was in the pocket of his jacket while doing laundry, a $500 hotel stay in our city. One night, champagne service, spa. I stared at the paper in my hand, numb. I didn't confront him right away. I needed proof. I started checking his email when he forgot to log out, monitored his phone when he carelessly left it unlocked. Within a week, I had screenshots, call logs, and pictures from social media that confirmed what I feared. He was seeing someone else. A woman from his office, Celine. 27, gorgeous, and apparently incredibly active on Instagram. They'd been together for at least 6 months. I asked him one night, casually, like I was testing the water, "Do you think we're happy?" He shrugged. "We're fine. Is there anything I should know?" He barely looked up from his phone. Nope. He was so smug, so sure that I was clueless. I waited a few more days before confronting him directly. "I know about Celine," I said. His face paled, but he didn't deny it. "Look," he began, "it's not working between us. You're always busy, always tired. You've changed." I stared at him. "You're cheating on me, and somehow it's my fault." He didn't apologize, didn't cry, just shrugged again and said, it was going to happen eventually. 2 days later, I got served. Divorce papers, filed by him. Fast, aggressive. He wanted the house, half of our joint savings, and alimony. Let me repeat that. Alimony. He claimed I abandoned the household by focusing too much on work. That I earned more, despite him never asking about my business income. He demanded spousal support for 3 years and access to my business assets, assuming they were rolled into our joint finances, which they weren't. He was confident. He smiled during our first mediation session, like he thought he was walking away with the winning lottery ticket. He even told his lawyer, in front of me, "She's not that smart with money. I handled it all. This'll be easy." This is where things shifted. I had anticipated this. I'd consulted a top-notch divorce attorney months earlier, after I confirmed the affair. I had all my ducks in a row, clean business finances, a record of every dollar earned and invested, documentation proving that our joint account represented only a small portion of my assets. My business was registered as an LLC, separate from our marital assets. All intellectual property was protected. Every contract, every invoice, every tax filing was airtight. I also had evidence of his affair, misuse of joint funds. Yes, he paid for his hotel rooms with our money, and even a few questionable business expenses that weren't so businesslike. At our first hearing, he walked in looking smug, holding hands with Celine, who had the nerve to wear white. His lawyers started rattling off numbers, demands, and accusations, painting Daniel as a poor, abandoned husband who supported his ungrateful, money-hungry wife. When it was my turn, my attorney calmly laid out my financials. There was a pause in the courtroom. The judge blinked. "You're saying your client's net worth is?" My lawyer nodded. "Approximately $6.8 million, Your Honor." Daniel's face changed instantly. He blinked, sat back, looked at me like he'd never seen me before. Because he hadn't. He'd seen a wife. A woman who stayed quiet, who didn't flaunt wealth or push back hard. He never once saw a CEO. The judge ordered a forensic review of our finances. He called into question Daniel's spending, his affair, and the fact that I had been paying the mortgage for the last 2 years from my business account. Daniel tried to argue. Celine stormed out. I stayed silent, just like I always had. But this time, it was by choice. I could feel the shift. The balance of power had flipped. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I smiled. You'd think that after learning I was worth nearly $7 million, Daniel would back off. He didn't. In fact, he doubled down. Apparently, once his lawyer realized how much money I had, they adjusted their entire strategy. Now Daniel wanted half of my business assets, retroactive support, and some wild thing called reputational compensation because, get this, he claimed my success made him look like a failure. You can't make this stuff up. The second hearing was even more tense than the first. Daniel arrived with a different attitude, less smug, but still arrogant. Celine didn't come this time. I wasn't sure if she'd been embarrassed by the financial bombshell or if she just got bored with the drama. My attorney came prepared with everything. And I mean everything. Emails showing Daniel had no involvement in my business. Contracts signed solely by me. Bank statements confirming he had no stake or contribution in any of the funds used to build my company. Invoices, balance sheets, trademark filings, tax returns. Daniel had tried to claim marital contribution, saying he supported me emotionally and therefore deserved a cut. But I had receipts, literal receipts, that proved he'd dismissed my business for years. One text from him, we printed it out, said, "You should really think about getting a real job. The little agency thing is just a hobby at this point." The judge read it aloud. I couldn't look at Daniel's face without smirking. The forensic accountant assigned to our case had a field day. Turns out Daniel had been funneling money out of our joint account into a side account under his brother's name. He claimed it was for family investment opportunities. In reality, he'd been trying to buy a Porsche. The accountant found $40,000 missing from our savings. 2 business retreats to Mexico that were actually romantic getaways with Celine. Charges at luxury restaurants, designer stores, and one sketchy wellness club in Vegas. All charged to the joint credit card. All while I was working 12-plus-hour days scaling my company. The judge's eyebrows kept climbing with every revelation. Daniel's lawyer started sweating. Then came the moment I will never forget. The judge looked Daniel dead in the eye and said, "Mr. Carter, you filed for divorce expecting financial compensation. What you failed to anticipate is that your wife is not only independently wealthy, but you actively harmed her financial standing through deceit and misuse of marital funds." Then he turned to my lawyer. "Counselor, based on preliminary findings, I am inclined to deny Mr. Carter's claim to spousal support and instead consider Ms. Carter's petition for restitution." Restitution. Not only was he not getting a dime, but he might have to pay me back. Daniel's mouth literally dropped open. Outside the courtroom, he cornered me in the hallway. His eyes were wide. The fake confidence was gone. He looked panicked. "You tricked me," he said. "You planned this." I looked at him calmly. "No, you just never bothered to ask what I was capable of." He clenched his jaw. "This isn't over." I shrugged. "It's over when the judge says it's over." Then I walked away. Okay, I wasn't going to include this next bit, but you all deserve a little petty. 3 weeks later, I was at a coffee shop near the courthouse. A younger woman was sitting at the next table, sobbing loudly into her phone. I couldn't help but overhear. She was talking about a guy who had promised to leave his wife, then ghosted her after she paid for his credit card bill. Guess the name? Daniel. I didn't say anything, but I did order her drink and sent it over anonymously with a note that said, "He's not worth your tears. Trust me." As of last week, the divorce was finalized. Here's how it all landed. Daniel got none of my business. He was ordered to pay $27,000 in restitution for misused joint funds. He received no alimony. I kept the house. He was allowed to keep his car, a leased BMW he couldn't afford anyway. Celine, from what I hear, is no longer with him. She reportedly ghosted after the first court date. People always say money changes people. That's not true. Money reveals people. Daniel thought he married someone weak. Someone he could manipulate, lie to, and discard when a better option came along. What he didn't know was that I had built something stronger than a marriage. I built myself. And when the truth came out, he couldn't laugh anymore. It had been just under a month since the divorce was finalized. I thought it was over. I thought I could finally breathe again. Then Daniel showed up at my office. I was in the middle of reviewing a campaign pitch with my creative team when my assistant, Jamie, knocked gently and slipped into the meeting room. She leaned down and whispered, "There's a man in the lobby. Says his name is Daniel Carter. He's refusing to leave." My stomach dropped. My team looked confused, and I quickly dismissed them, assuring them I'd reschedule. Jamie looked concerned. "I can call building security," she said. "No," I said after a moment. "I'll handle it." There he was, standing in the center of the lobby like a lost child. He looked thinner, unshaven, eyes ringed with sleeplessness. It had been weeks since I'd seen him. Last time he was wearing a smug grin. That was gone. He walked up slowly, voice low. "Can we talk?" I crossed my arms. "You're not supposed to be here. You know that." He swallowed. "I needed to say something. Please." I stared at him for a few seconds, then nodded toward the sidewalk. "Outside. You have 5 minutes." We stood in front of my building under the afternoon sun. Daniel looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I messed up," he started. "I didn't know how far gone I was until I lost everything." I said nothing. He kept going. Celine's gone. My lease is up. My company let me go. Apparently, they don't like the kind of attention a court case like ours brings. I raised an eyebrow but didn't speak. He rubbed his hands together. I was angry. I was stupid. I never should have filed for divorce. I thought I was the one in control. But you were always 10 steps ahead. I didn't say a word. I just watched him unravel. I want to try again, he said finally. I've been thinking about everything. About us. Maybe we rush things. Maybe we let pride ruin what we built. I blinked. You want me to take you back? I'm not saying I deserve it, but we had something real once. Can we at least talk about it? I stepped forward, leaned in slightly, and said, No, Daniel, we didn't rush anything. You did. You chose her. You filed. You laughed in my face when you handed me the papers. He flinched at that. You didn't lose me because of pride. You lost me because you thought I was beneath you. That I begged to stay. And when you realized I had power, money, dignity, strength, you panicked. That's what this is. Panic. His mouth opened, then closed. I'm not your backup plan, I said. I'm not a safety net. I'm not the woman you run to after everything else collapses. I was your wife. You burned that bridge. You salted the earth. He looked like he wanted to cry. I didn't care. Later that day, Jamie came in again. He sent flowers. I raised an eyebrow. Throw them out. There's a note, she said, holding it up. It read, You're the strongest woman I've ever known. I didn't see it before, but I do now. Please give me a chance to prove I can be better. I rolled my eyes. I told Jamie, add him to the list of banned visitors. If he calls, emails, or shows up again, contact building security. She smiled and nodded. That was the last time I saw Daniel in person. A few days later, my lawyer sent me an email. Apparently, Daniel had filed a motion to appeal the restitution order. He claimed the judge had been emotionally influenced and that his financial contributions had been overlooked. It was pathetic. But that wasn't even the best part. When reviewing the case again, the forensic accountant uncovered something new. Daniel had sold some of my personal belongings online before he filed for divorce, including a limited edition designer watch I'd received as a gift from one of my longtime clients. That opened the door to a civil theft suit. We're currently pursuing that. I may actually end up owning the BMW he still owes payments on. Poetic, right? Now, my business is booming. We just hit 7 figures in revenue last quarter. I moved into a gorgeous new loft. I travel when I want. I sleep peacefully at night. No drama. No lies. No smug husband calculating how to cash in on my success. Just me, rebuilding from the ashes, only this time, stronger, smarter, and completely unbothered. If you're reading this and you're in a toxic relationship where someone underestimates you, hear me. You don't have to scream to be powerful. You don't have to fight loud battles to win. Sometimes, silence, strategy, and self-worth are the sharpest weapons. I played the long game, and I won. When I thought I was finally done with Daniel and everything attached to him, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello. Hi, this is Margaret, Daniel's mom. I nearly dropped the phone. Now, let me set the scene. Margaret and I were never close, but we were cordial. She was always polite at family gatherings, but never warm. She never outright said it, but I always got the feeling she thought I wasn't wife material, too independent, too focused on my little business. She once told me, a man needs to feel like he's needed, day. Be careful not to outshine him. I remember smiling and nodding while resisting the urge to roll my eyes. So when she called me, of all people, I was already defensive. I'm so sorry to bother you, she said, her voice already breaking. But Daniel's not doing well. I stayed silent. He's fallen into a depression. He lost his job, and Celine's left him. He's barely eating. I've never seen him like this. He made mistakes, I know that, but he's still my son. I still didn't speak. She sniffled. He talks about you constantly. Says you were the best thing that ever happened to him. That he ruined it. There it was. The manipulation, just dressed up in maternal tears. Then came the kicker. Would you consider talking to him? Just to help him get back on his feet. Maybe he's not too proud to apologize this time. Maybe there's still something there. I finally spoke. No, Margaret, there's not. I told her the truth. I explained, calmly, that Daniel didn't just make a mistake. He made a series of deliberate choices to betray me, belittle me, and take advantage of me. I reminded her that he filed for divorce, that he mocked me, that he tried to financially ruin me, that he cheated, lied, stole. He didn't just walk away from a marriage. I said, he tried to destroy the woman he married. There was silence on the other end. Then she said, "I didn't know it was that bad." "It was worse," I replied, "and I'm not going back. Not even to talk. I wish him healing. Truly. But I'm not his solution." She tried one more time. "He's your husband. X. And that was his choice." Then I hung up. Over the next week, I received 4 more calls from unknown numbers. 2 voicemails. One from Daniel himself, his voice hoarse and dramatic. "I'm sorry. I miss you. I made the worst mistake of my life." Another from Margaret. "Please don't punish him forever. He's not well." I didn't respond. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even upset. I was simply done. A lot of people think closure is something you get from someone else. I disagree. Sometimes, closure is the moment you realize you don't owe anyone your peace, your explanation, your time, your healing. I had already closed the door on Daniel. I didn't need to open it just because he was now sitting on the porch, crying. About a month later, Jamie, my assistant, forwarded me an email she thought I'd want to see. It was from a reporter for a local business blog. They'd received an anonymous tip about a former employee from Daniel's firm, someone fired after using company funds for personal trips and misrepresenting internal data. Guess who? Daniel was being investigated for ethics violations. His former employer was considering legal action. Apparently, he had not only used corporate cards for his little getaways with Celine, but also altered sales reports to make himself look more successful. I didn't lift a finger. I didn't send a tip. But Karma, she works overtime. I don't want to end this update on bitterness, because truthfully, I'm not bitter. I'm actually the happiest I've ever been. My company is growing faster than I imagined. I hired a full-time content director, expanded our global clients, and just got accepted into a national women-led entrepreneur program. I bought myself a new car, a sleek electric model I've wanted for years, and treated my team to a retreat in Bali for smashing our Q2 goals. And for the first time in a long time, I feel free. Not just from Daniel, but from the version of me who kept shrinking to fit someone else's comfort zone. She's gone. This me? She's expansive, grounded, radiant. You didn't just lose a wife. You lost a partner, a friend, a protector, a believer, and a quiet warrior. And now that I'm out of your shadow, I can see how small you really were. It was supposed to be just another Tuesday. I was wrapping up a Zoom call with a client in Sydney, sipping my second espresso, when my building's front desk called. "There's someone here asking to see you, says it's personal." My stomach tightened. I didn't even have to ask who. I took the elevator down, prepared this time. I had already told building security not to allow Daniel on the premises, but he must have convinced a new guy at the desk. He stood there, wearing a wrinkled shirt and the same jeans he used to call his lazy weekend uniform. Unshaven, red-eyed, a duffel bag on the floor beside him. He looked tired. Worse than tired. Hollow. "Please," he said. "Just a few minutes." I crossed my arms. "You're trespassing. I don't have anywhere else to go." That sentence hit differently. "Why are you really here?" I asked. He sighed, ran a hand through his messy hair. I hit rock bottom. I don't know where else to go. I burned through my savings. Celine's gone. My mom won't let me stay longer than a few nights. I raised a brow. "So now you think I will?" "No," he said quickly. "I know I don't deserve that. His voice cracked. "I thought maybe you could. I don't know. Just talk to me. Let me explain." I stared at him for a long moment. Then I shook my head. "You've explained enough. You used me," I said, calmly but firmly. "You laughed in my face when you thought you had the upper hand. You tried to destroy me financially and emotionally. And now that your life is crumbling, now you remember what I meant to you." He looked down. "I didn't realize how much you cared. How much you protected me. I didn't know how successful you really were." "That's the point," I said. "You didn't want to know. You wanted to believe I was small so you could feel big." He said nothing. "You don't get to rewrite the story now," I added. "You're not the victim in this." He blinked rapidly, tears forming. "I don't need money. I don't need a place to stay. I just wanted you to know I was sorry." I nodded once. "You said it. Now go." As he stood there, clearly hoping for more, I turned to the security guard who'd just arrived and said, "Please escort Mr. Carter out. He's not welcome here again." Daniel didn't fight it. He picked up his bag, nodded weakly, and walked out of the building like a ghost of the man I once married. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't replay the moment in my head 100 times like I used to. I lit a candle, put on some soft music, and poured myself a glass of red wine. Then I opened a brand new notebook and started writing a list. Things I learned. You don't get to rewrite the story now, I added. You're not the victim in this. He blinked rapidly, tears forming. I don't need money. I don't need a place to stay. I just wanted you to know I was sorry. I nodded once. You said it. Now go. As he stood there, clearly hoping for more, I turned to the security guard who'd just arrived and said, "Please escort Mr. Carter out. He's not welcome here again." Daniel didn't fight it. He picked up his bag, nodded weakly, and walked out of the building like a ghost of the man I once married. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't replay the moment in my head 100 times like I used to. I lit a candle, put on some soft music, and poured myself a glass of red wine. Then I opened a brand new notebook and started writing a list. Things I learned. 1. Never let anyone else manage your money completely, not even a spouse. 2. Don't shrink yourself to protect someone else's ego. 3. Success should be shared, not hidden. 4. Protect your peace like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. 5. People who try to tear you down are often threatened by what they see rising in you. If you're reading this and you're the quiet one, the calm one, the one who loves deeply and gives endlessly, don't let anyone mistake your kindness for weakness. Don't wait for your husband, your boyfriend, your boss, or anyone to validate your worth. Validate yourself. Stand tall. Build your empire, brick by brick, word by word, client by client. And if someone tries to take it all from you, let them try. Then show them what a quiet, brilliant, underestimated woman is really capable of. A month after Daniel's final visit, I was invited to speak at a National Women in Business Summit. I stood on stage in a sleek suit, my name on the giant screen behind me, as I shared my journey, not as a woman scorned, but as a founder, a leader, and someone who refused to be erased. The applause was thunderous, and in that moment, I realized something. He was never the villain. He was just the lesson. And I was the main character all along.